CNN did this piece on Tucker Carlson that you're going to see here. This is Brian Stelter. Let's see what he thinks about Tucker and what Tucker's up to, and I'm going to tell you why this is a colossal mistake.
I have come to one inescapable conclusion about the GOP and the media. I want to see if you agree or disagree with me. Even though Republicans are out of power right now, the use of the media, their use of the media, has a major impact on the Democrats and on political dysfunction. So this, what I'm about to say, directly impacts President Biden and his administration. All right, are you ready for it? Here's my conclusion. Tucker Carlson is the new Donald Trump. Tucker has taken Trump's place as a right-wing leader, as an outrage generator, as a fire starter. And it's all happening on Fox, just like Trump's campaign did. Which means Rupert and Lachlan Murdoch are ultimately responsible. I mean, think about all the ways these two men are similar. Every day, Carlson is throwing bombs, making online memes, offending millions of people, also delighting millions of others, tapping into white male rage and resentment, stoking distrust of big tech and the media, generally coarsening the discourse, never apologizing for anything, and setting the GOP's agenda. Sounds like a recently retired president, right? Even before the 2020 election, there was informed speculation about Carlson as a 2024 candidate. Of course, some of Carlson's detractors say, he's just a troll, he's just really good at ticking people off. But isn't that what they said about Trump for years? Yes, Tucker is known to critique Trump and the Republican Party from time to time. This time last year, he was at Mar-a-Lago trying to convince Trump to take COVID more seriously. But Tucker tells the same conspiratorial us versus them story that Trump told. The same they're out to get you story that Trump told for years. It's the paranoid style in American politics all over again. And Tucker now soaks up some of the same social media fury that Trump did. He stokes the same debates that Trump did. And it raises the same predicament that Trump raised 5 or 6 years ago. Whether and how to cover his claims.
Here's why this is downright silly. They're going to do with Tucker exactly what they did with Trump, which is cover him nonstop. They're already starting to do that. Make him a bigger deal than he is. And what they need to understand is a lot of people's entire worldview and ideology is trigger the libs. And when Brian Stelter does this, he's effectively giving Tucker exactly what he wants, which is Tucker is triggering the libs being Brian Stelter. So when you're so obsessed with the culture war, this is a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Like the thing that they say they're afraid of, oh my God, the rise of Tucker Carlson, they're going to facilitate that. Now, if they didn't touch his stuff, yes, he has a big audience and he'd keep that big audience, but it would be limited to what it already is. Brian Stelter and these insufferable elite Dems on traditional media, they're going to make him bigger than he ever could make himself. And listen, what I want to give a plug real quick to Matt Taibbi's book, Hate Inc., because he outlines the dynamic in the media amazingly well. Basically, the business model of 24/7 cable news, they realized they do better when they rile people up and we have an official enemy. So there was a time back in the day when we had the Cold War and the Soviet Union was the enemy. And then, there was a time when we had the war on terror and Al-Qaeda was the enemy and radical Muslims were the enemy. And now we've gotten to a point where in the era of Trump, it's more about partisan politics and your fellow American who disagrees with you politically is the enemy. So on MSNBC, Republicans are the enemy, full stop. And on Fox News, Democrats are the enemy, full stop. And sprinkle in like Democrats, but also like immigrants. So now there's a business model that's incredibly profitable to say that half the country are irredeemable deplorables and there's no redeeming qualities and they're useless and they're terrible. And so this is what we're seeing here. Now, Tucker Carlson is going to lob some bombs at various CNN hosts and MSNBC hosts and call them out by name, and they're going to do the same thing back to him. And we're going to go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and nobody's going to say anything of substance. Nobody's going to say anything of substance. Nobody's going to say anything about policy and how to improve the country and how to make everybody's lives better. You're just going to bicker like high school idiots, and it's going to be over culture war garbage. And so now his whole segment is, well, what are we supposed to do with Tucker? Well, first of all, not this. Not this. He wants to trigger the libs, and you're facilitating that. You're allowing that. You're the lib and you're triggered. So you're going to do with Tucker exactly what you did with Trump. They messed up and made Trump president. Why? Because they covered him 24/7. They covered him nonstop. They made a scandal out of everything. One of the biggest problems with the mainstream media is they never get angry at the right things. They always get angry at silly things and then in turn drive more people to the audience of the people they're criticizing. I have no doubt that however many people mainstream media turned against Trump, they also turned that many people in his favor or more. Because again, they covered him in a way that was so silly and so lowbrow. I mean, I remember the best example of this. I remember when Trump was doing a rally and he said that the TPP is terrible, the trade deal is terrible, it's going to rape the American people, it's going to rape us. And they, for a day and a half or 2 days, it was nonstop outrage over the fact that he used the word rape. They may have even invited on like sexual assault survivors to say how the use of that word triggered them. And it's just like, you're performatively being outraged. That's all you're doing. It's performative outrage. It's not real. None of this is real. And so, it turned a lot of people in his favor. They're going to do the same thing. They're in the process of doing the exact same thing with Tucker Carlson. What I would say is, step aside, son. Let the adults handle this, Again, not to toot my own horn here, even though that's exactly what the fuck I'm about to do, but my proudest moments are when people come up to me at Politicon or elsewhere and say, I'm the one who helped deconvert them from that alt-right pipeline and that, right-wing ideology. That nothing makes me happier than hearing that. And honestly, the way in which you do the deconversions is basically the polar opposite of what these idiots on CNN and MSNBC are doing. They're driving more people in that direction. The way that you deconvert people is to make it all about substance, to make it all about policy, to demonstrate how, hey, this ideology is fundamentally incorrect, and it's not going to improve your life. It's not going to improve anybody's life. This is all culture war fodder and garbage. And if anything, where they place the blame is incorrect. The reason that people's lives are not great at the moment is not because of some immigrants that came into the country. That's not true at all. That's the oldest trick in the book, is that the elites divert your anger and your attention to people who are lower on the economic ladder than you, as opposed to the fact that they're the ones who are running out the back door with all the money. They're the ones who have rigged the system, rigged the rules. They're insanely corrupt. They bought the government. They own the government. And all policymaking is for their benefit and your detriment. This is how you deconvert people. The other thing is, you got to be honest about stuff, man. Every now and then he'll say something that's anti-war. So what you do is you go out there and say, okay, good point. But now why are you supporting the politician who is pro-war and who's not in line with the sentiments that you espoused? You can't say, oh, I want to get out of Afghanistan, I want to get out of Iraq, and then you supported Donald Trump, who kept us in Afghanistan and kept us in Iraq. It was all a ruse. Trump did what Obama did. Anti-war, mouthing the talking points, and then he kept us there behind the scenes. It was the yo-yo effect. Troop levels go up, troop levels go down, troop levels go up, troop levels go down. That's exactly what Trump did. He increased the drone war 432%. So spare me your nonsense about talking like you're anti-war. You're not anti-war. You wouldn't be, driving people to support Trump, which is what Tucker Carlson did. This is how you talk about these people, argue with these people. You don't do a segment like this, which is totally non-substantive and giving him more credit than he deserves. Oh, he's the next Trump. Well, he will be if you keep covering him like this. So just step aside. These guys show is so unbearable. I mean, half the time Brian Stelter is just calling to censor people that he disagrees with and have them banned from social media. And, we've covered those segments. You've seen them before. And then the other half of the time, he's actively helping the people that he claims to dislike. It's just so sad. Again, the whole ideology of some people is trigger the libs. And then Brian Stelter gives them exactly what they want. You're not helping, dude. You're not helping even a little bit.